What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. In this video, I'm going to kind of, recap, this past weekend's preseason game between the Bengals and the New York Giants. So let's go ahead and get into it here. The Giants defeated the Bengals 25-22 on Sunday night in New York, and there was many players who kind of helped their chances to make the team, and there was also a few players who really hurt their chances to make the team or kind of put them in a harder position to make the team, after these performances on Sunday. So kind of looking at some of these players, to me, it really kind of stood out this past weekend. Looking at some of these winners here, I think Chris Evans was once again a winner, and I think he once again proved why he's capable of being the running back number 2 behind Joe Mixon and jumping Samaje Perine on the depth chart. When you look at the stats are very deceiving. When you look at Chris Evans, he had 5 carries for 3 yards. But when you watch this game, you could tell this offensive line was just not with it. It was really, really, really bad. You can make a case this offensive line was worse than it was, our first preseason game against Arizona. He had 1 kick return, and it was for 73 yards. Chris Evans, to me, is really helping his case to be running back number 2. I think at this point, if he has another good performance this upcoming week in our preseason finale against the Rams, I think it's his to lose, honestly. Look at some of these other players here that really kind of stood out to me. Look at Alan George, undrafted free agent, safety. He was all over the field when he was playing. His stats to me are kind of, deceiving because it says he has 5 tackles. Really seems like it had more than that. He was just all over the play, making plays on the ball, breaking up passes left and right. He very much impressed me a lot. I think he's really helping his case to cement a roster spot as we get close to roster cuts, just a couple weeks away now. Some of these other players who really stood out to me, Daxton Hill, the Bengals' first-round pick from Michigan. He only played a couple series, but holy crap, he was everywhere to be seen on the field. He was bringing up passes. He was having some great tackles, great open field tackles. He also had a tremendous diving interception. He ran it back for over 20 yards. This is the reason why the Bengals drafted Daxton Hill, because they know what type of player they were getting with him. A guy who could possibly, more likely going to be the replacements for Jesse Bates. And I think Daxton Hill so far has really proved, this was a smart selection by the Bengals in the first round by getting, Hill, the safety, who could possibly be Bates' replacements here. Looking at some other people, Kendrick Pryor and Kwame Lassiter, both of those receivers kind of stood out to me as well. Lassiter had 7 targets. He caught all of them, but he did drop a 2-point conversion. Lassiter had 7 receptions for 91 yards. Kendrick Pryor, 4 receptions for 28 yards. Both of these wide receivers, to me, are really helping their case to make the team. And it's going to be one of those situations like one of them, to me, I think, is making a team, at least. But who are they going to jump over? I think Kendrick Pryor has made his case to maybe jump Trenton Irwin on the roster spot and maybe take Irwin's spot like Irwin was on the team last year. Lassiter, I think he's helping his case. Depending, how these, the rest of the preseason goes, maybe if he has another good game, maybe he'll jump a guy like, Michael Thomas. I mean, you never know. But I'm really, really impressed with both of those receivers. And this is one of the better, undrafted free agent classes we've kind of had in a long time. When you look at Marvin Lewis era, we were known to, we normally would have one really good undrafted free agent. And it seems like with Zach Taylor, we haven't really had that much. But I feel like this is definitely the best undrafted free agent class that Zach Taylor has had since he's been the head coach of the Bengals. A couple other people here that kind of stood out to me are Clay Johnston and Jalen Davis. You watch the fourth quarter of that game, the only 2 players in defense for the Bengals that seemed like was making plays was Clay Johnston and Jalen Davis. Jalen Davis had 8 tackles. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was getting to the quarterback. He was in a couple quarterback pressures, breaking up passes, having some great, great tackles. I'm very, very impressed with him. A guy who can maybe take, a bigger step this upcoming season. And Clay Johnston, this is really, really weird to me. You look at the stat sheet, like, holy crap, he had 20 tackles, 16, solo tackles, had a sack and a quarterback hit. But go back and watch the game. To me, it didn't really seem like Clay Johnston was really making a huge impact up until the fourth quarter. I would say those last 3-4 drives for Cincinnati. I mean, Clay Johnston and Jalen Davis were all over the field those final possessions for Cincinnati's defense. And Johnston's a guy who's kind of on the bubble about possibly, making a roster spot this season. It's not a for sure thing. To me, I definitely think he helped his case this upcoming season. Part of the reason why he was on the team last year because, Davis Gaither was on the IR. Davis Gaither, to me, was another player who played pretty well. He only played a series or 2. But once again, we saw Davis Gaither making a big impact in the limited snaps that he played. We've seen that in the regular season until he's been, hurt and everything. Each time we've seen Davis Gaither this past couple of years, whether it's been, Sunday, whether it was the week before, whether it's in the regular season, his rookie year, when Davis Gaither's on the field, it seems like he's always making plays, and he has so much potential. I'm really, really excited about Davis Gaither this year, and I'm really hoping he can stay healthy because, when you have Davis Gaither, Jermaine Pratt, who's coming off a career year, Logan Wilson's coming off a year where he had 100 tackles and 4 interceptions, and you have guys like Clay Johnson who just had 20 tackles, and Marcus Bailey who can step up when they need to. This linebacker core is very, very underrated, in my opinion. I think it's one of the better linebacker cores the Bengals have had in several years. Looking at some losers here, to me, I think there was definitely more winners than losers. But some of these losers are Deontay Smith, the 4th-round selection from East Carolina last year. I believe he had 3 penalties just in the first quarter. Like, he was really, really bad. Penalties, it seemed like the whole game with Deontay Smith. He was just not blocking good. He was getting people right by him, which led to, Brandon Allen throwing the ball quickly, Jake Browning throwing the ball quickly to avoid a sack. I was kind of surprised how bad Smith did, honestly. I kind of expected a little bit more than him, but did definitely not expect this bad a performance by him. I mentioned, when you look at, Deontay Smith, he was, blocking really, really bad and people were getting past him, and, it was getting pressure in the face for Brandon Allen and Jake Browning. Brandon Allen was really, really bad. And it's one of those things I've said before, stats are so deceiving. Look at the stats here for Brandon Allen. Brandon Allen was 14-20 for 105 yards. You look at those stats, he did all right. You watch the game, holy crap. Like, he did really, really bad. I've said this for a while now. You go back and look at different videos I've posted. I've not really posted on Twitter, but mainly on my YouTube videos. I've said that the Bengals need to try to upgrade at backup quarterback. When you look, in my opinion, when you look at the most important positions in the NFL, obviously it's not a debate. The starting quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. In my opinion, I'm going to put middle linebacker number 2, and the 3rd most important position in the NFL, in my opinion, is backup quarterback. Because let's say Burrow goes down. Like, if Burrow goes down, and we have Brandon Allen as a quarterback, we're not even playoff contenders anymore. Like, we're Super Bowl contenders with Burrow, but you take Burrow away, we're going to be probably last in the division, and Brandon Allen will be our quarterback if Burrow were to go down. I've said it multiple times. I really think we need to try and see if we can get upgrades at backup quarterback, because Brandon Allen has just not been cutting it ever since, these past couple of seasons. Look at last year, his lone start against the Cleveland Browns. He was really, really bad. His completion percentage, I believe, only 50%. And just really was bad that game. Wasn't good this game. I'm really kind of hoping we see who's on the market for quarterback number 2, because I don't really want to see Brandon Allen be our quarterback number 2 as we head in the season, because I don't want to see a situation where Burrow goes down and Allen is our starting quarterback. The other person to me who is a major loser this game, I really don't think it even has to be said, is Thaddeus Moss. When you look at Thaddeus Moss, coming out of college, everybody was talking about, Thaddeus Moss, we should draft him in the 3rd and 4th round. There was actually people telling me we should draft him in the 3rd and 4th round. Absolutely ridiculous. He's going to be so good, all this, that, and the other. Nobody would want Thaddeus Moss on the Bengals roster right now if he did not play with Joe Burrow in college. Nobody would want Thaddeus Moss on the Bengals roster right now if he was not arguably the best wide receiver of all time, Randy Moss's son. Thaddeus Moss is so freaking overrated. The hype around Thaddeus Moss ever since he came into college was unnecessary. It made absolutely no sense at all. And we have seen time and time again, Thaddeus Moss is given chances to make plays, and he cannot do anything. Look at the first preseason game against the Arizona Cardinals. Chris Evans would have had at least 75 more total yards and a touchdown if it wasn't for 2 major Thaddeus Moss holding plays. You look at this game. He really didn't do much this game. And I know people are going to talk about Thaddeus Moss's hits on Kayvon Thibodeau. To me, I don't see what the big deal is. If anything, to me, I don't think Thaddeus Moss, that was a good block. You go back and watch it, I think the reason it looks bad is because the angle that Kayvon Thibodeau was in at the time. And I think it was bad because the block that Thaddeus Moss had, he didn't fully block. I kind of seemed like Moss just gave up on his block. Once he hit Kayvon Thibodeau, he just kind of stopped. And to me, that's kind of why it looks so bad. I think people really, really overreacting about this. I guarantee you, if Thaddeus Moss played for the Steelers, people will be talking about how great of a block this was. Look at the halftime. Brian Baldinger and D'Angelo Hall, two players who've been in the NFL for a long time, analysts on NFL Network said it was a legal block. And some people, they say he should be suspended. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. To me, I think this is really being blown out of proportion. Kayvon Thibodeau was the 5th pick in the draft this year. There's so much expectations for Thibodeau. And, he was one of the best players in the draft. But do you honestly think if this was a player, an undrafted free agent from, let's say, Stony Brook or Central Connecticut State or South Carolina State or just some small school, do you honestly think this would be talked about near as much? Like, this honestly probably would not have been talked about if this was an undrafted free agent from a super, super small school. But it's the fact that Kayvon Thibodeau is such a high-profile player. It's the fact that this is playing against New York Giants. Obviously, New York market loves to blow things out of proportion. To me, I don't think the hit was dirty by Thaddeus Moss. I thought the block was really bad because it just seemed like he gave up on the block, and that's why it looks so bad. And the angle that Thibodeau was in is why it makes it look so bad also. I really think people overreacting about this. I'm going to be really glad when it's over with. But yeah, that's just, to me, another reason why Thaddeus Moss was a major loser in this game. He hasn't done absolutely nothing with the Bengals. He hurts a player. He's out for a long, extended period of time. He makes Chris Evans, look not as good, on a stat sheet because, Chris Evans was phenomenal last week, but you wouldn't know it because Thaddeus Moss has 2 major holding penalties. Moss should absolutely be one of the next players cut by the Bengals. I am sick and freaking tired of all these, people, kissing his butt and saying, oh, he's going to do great, he's going to do this, whatever. He's been given so many chances, and he has not lived up to any of them. But like I said, Thaddeus Moss and some of these other guys like Brandon Allen, Deontay Smith, to me, were definitely some of the bigger losers in this past preseason game against the Bengals and the New York Giants. There's kind of some big news with the Bengals today as Jesse Bates, officially signed his franchise tag, which is great for Cincinnati. I expected this to happen. I could not have imagined season go and Jesse Bates would have held out. That just would not have made sense. It really would have hurt his career, and it really would have hurt the Bengals this upcoming season. But when you look at this Bengals team now, we got Jesse Bates back. I mean, we have seen the explosiveness play of Daxton Hill these past couple weeks in the preseason. You have Von Bell, who's an underrated safety. I mean, you get all these guys coming back. I mean, this defense is going to be absolutely explosive. They're going to be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we have seen sparks and, potential from these young players this season in the preseason, like Daxton Hill, like Allen George, like some of these other players. And then you get Bates and Bell. This is going to be a very tough secondary. I cannot wait to see Bates play this season. But ultimately, to me, I think this will be Bates' last season. I would be very surprised if Bates ends up signing a long-term extension with Cincinnati next offseason. But it'll be very interesting to see, how the situation with Jesse Bates goes throughout the regular season and into the off season. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Comment some of your, winners and losers in this preseason game. If you're new to the channel or if you've seen my videos before, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time on the Sports Through Hines Show.